Hi, my name is Bob Hill, and I'm the president of the Church of Scientology, Mission of Riverdale at 308 Broadview Avenue in Toronto. The topic of today's sermon is how to make good decisions. It's a good one, eh? Scientology is a practical religion. It teaches a person how to know. That's what the word Scientology means. Knowing how to know. As you look at life around you, with all the changes in day-to-day activities, you may be experiencing some confusion, which may make it difficult for you to make good decisions. Would you agree with me on that? I'm sure you would. Today's sermon is based on information from the Scientology Handbook. It's a big book. I don't have a copy in front of me, but if you like, you can get a copy at the end. To make life less confusing in Scientology, we divide life into eight divisions. In each part of life, we have a push or urge or motivation. It's called a dynamic. In Chapter 2, The Conditions of Existence, L. Ron Hubbard states, every individual is made up of a central thrust or push through existence. This drive, this thrust through existence is survival. We find that in this one thrust, there are actually 8 different thrusts or 8 dynamics. You got it? So you have a thrust for survival, but in that thrust are 8 specific thrusts called dynamics. The first dynamic is the urge towards existence as oneself. At this time, examples of the first dynamic would be taking care of your body, taking care of yourself during the pandemic. You might want to take a walk. Spiritually, you might want to communicate with an old friend, try and raise each other up so you feel better. Your individual activities that help you survive are covered on the first dynamic. The second dynamic is the urge towards existence as a future generation. It has 2 compartments, sex and the family unit, including the rearing or bringing up of children. This could include the actions you take to feed and clothe yourself and your partner and children. For some extreme changes in finances, it may cause difficulties during this pandemic. That can affect your second dynamic. That is something you would communicate out with your relative partner or, within the family unit. Others may have also lost a family member. I know specifically of people that's occurred to recently. That can affect them. So you may want to deal with that so that you have more and more thrust on that dynamic to make it survive. The third dynamic is the urge to survive as part of a group. Any group, temporary or permanent, political or social, is part of the third dynamic, and each one is the third dynamic. Your school, your workplace, church, social groups, they're all third dynamics. Now, there's been a lot of changes on the third dynamic with the pandemic, and we may be missing our groups. So what you would want to do is try and establish a way of surviving with your groups while this is going on. For example, I maintain communication with the group here at the mission, and we stay in communication with each other, and that allows us to keep that dynamic alive and keep it functioning. I do these Sunday services, for example. I can do this during the pandemic and get it out to others within the group and anyone else who would like to be part of that. So you may want to do things like that. Some people have experienced in business potential losses. What you would do in that case is you would take your business, communicate it out, take some data that you can that would help your business, and use that to get that group functioning again and back on its feet. Okay? The fourth dynamic is the urge for the survival of mankind as a species. All the races on all the planet, all the groups would be part of the fourth dynamic. The work that's being done to prevent COVID on the planet right now is a fourth dynamic activity. You have travel bans so that people can't come in and infect other people in other countries. You have different things like we should practice good hygiene on each other, like take care of ourselves so that we don't become infectious to others around us. All these things are done to protect the fourth dynamic. Your survival depends upon ensuring human rights exist as well as part of the fourth dynamic. You have to be free to make your own decisions. And as part of that, I'm going to read to you the creed of the Church of Scientology so that you can practice these things. And maybe that will give you some freedom. And then we'll go back to the other four dynamics, which I'm going to take up with you. We of the Church believe that all men of whatever race, color, or creed were created with equal rights. That all men have inalienable rights to their own religious practices and their performance. That all men have inalienable rights to their own lives. That all men have inalienable rights to their sanity. That all men have inalienable rights to their own defense. I'm sure you can see how these would apply to that fourth dynamic. That all men have inalienable rights to conceive, choose, assist, or support their own organizations, churches, and governments. That all men have inalienable rights to think freely, to talk freely, to write freely their own opinions, and to counter or utter or write upon the opinions of others. That all men have inalienable rights to the creation of their own kind. That the souls of men have the rights of men. That the study of the mind and the healing of mentally caused ills should not be alienated from religion or condoned in non-religious fields, and that no agency less than God has the power to suspend or set aside these rights overtly or covertly. And we of the Church believe that man is basically good, that he is seeking to survive, that his survival depends upon himself and upon his fellows and his attainment of brotherhood with the universe. And we of the Church believe that the laws of God forbid man to destroy his own kind, to destroy the sanity of another, to destroy or enslave another's soul, to destroy or reduce the survival of one's companions or one's group. And we of the Church believe that the spirit can be saved and that the spirit alone may save or heal the body. You got it? Good stuff. Now, that all applies to your fourth dynamic. So you can apply those datums. Now, the next four dynamics, I'll take them up with you. The fifth dynamic, we just left off the fourth, is the urge to survive for any and every form of life. So even that little mosquito that sometimes wakes you up, it's part of your fifth dynamic. These would include all living things, whether animal or vegetable. Anything directly and intimately, closely motivated by life. How strong is your fifth dynamic? Do you have pets? Do you take care of plants? Maybe you have a garden. Some people take a lot of pleasure in taking care of plants and taking their dog for a walk. All these things help the fifth dynamic, however minor they are. Even if you're in a city, you can also contribute to the survival of your fifth dynamic. Activities which threaten life, such as war, pollution, and just general neglect, these are harmful to the fifth dynamic. So try and do things to help to contribute to the fifth dynamic, okay? The sixth dynamic is the urge towards existence as the physical universe. A universe is all created things. Now you might say, well, why the physical universe? Like, what does that have to do with anything? Well, you need ground to walk on, don't you? You need air to breathe. We all like a glass of cold water. And what's wrong with having material possessions? Why not have it all? So you take care of your other dynamics. Why not have nice clothes, or clothes that are you consider presentable? Why not have a nice vehicle to drive around in? The seventh dynamic is the urge toward existence as or of spirits. Anything spiritual with or without identity would be covered under the seventh dynamic. Now, what can you do spiritually? Well, some of us choose to study materials that bring us to a higher spiritual state. Some of us choose to just try and be kind and help others around us, which also gives you a lift spiritually. Just think about that one thing called help. If you help yourself and help others, that might boost you up spiritually. And the more we do with that, the better our chances are for survival. Because after all, we all have some bit of spirituality in us, don't we? I think so. The eighth dynamic is the urge towards existence as infinity. This is also identified as the supreme being. Now, you have to really look at that one because it's a bit of, it's a toughie. People over the generations have identified it. Various religions have their concept of God, etc. But at the end of the day, any culture that has fallen away from some sort of connection to the eighth dynamic is a culture or a society that's in big trouble. So try yourself to get a concept of that dynamic and have an urge towards survival into infinity, and you'll probably feel tremendously better. Okay? Great. Now, the basic characteristic of the individual includes his ability to expand into the other dynamics. By that is meant, it's a good idea to try and improve your lot so that you become more aware, more conscious, and you reach out into these dynamics more and more. I'll give you an example. On the first dynamic, for example, you discover that a baby at birth is not perceptive beyond the first dynamic. So you've seen that. The baby is born and they cry, they want milk, they want warmth, they want to be taken care of. However, as the child grows, they become more aware of things like mom, dad, siblings, and they want to be part of that. Then they grow a little more, and they realize that, hey, there's other kids for me to hang out with. If my mom and dad invite their friends over and their friends have kids, then I can hang out with that group of kids. And then they discover, hey, there's more people out there than just this small group. There's a whole bunch of groups. And then all of a sudden they realize how much they love dogs. They get a dog. And so they embrace the dynamics more and more and more as they become more and more aware. So think of someone you admire. Everybody do that. Now, how are they doing on these 8 parts of life? And then think for yourself, how could you help them to improve their 8 dynamics? Because ultimately, we're all connected on these dynamics. In making decisions, you can look at how you are doing on your dynamics and include in your plans how you can expand each part of your life. What is the best solution to a problem? The optimum solution to any problem would be that solution which did the maximum construction or creation along the maximum number of dynamics relating to the problem. A bad solution to a problem would harm the dynamics and reduce the chance for survival. An example of this is someone feels depressed or they stop having pleasure, so they start taking drug and alcohol. Drugs they take a drug or an alcohol. They may get some relief and pleasure on the first dynamic. They may feel more relaxed on the second and third dynamics, but this can affect their activities on the other dynamics and reduce their awareness on the 7th dynamic, which is the spiritual dynamic. And if continued, it brings down all 8 of their dynamics. And you may have seen that with people who become alcoholics or drug addicts, and they often go, how did this happen to me? You may be faced with many decisions to make during the pandemic, such as taking extra care to avoid illness, and so on. How can you protect yourself, your family, your groups, and mankind? On each decision you make, look at what is the greatest good. These are the questions you can answer for yourself. So you make a decision, is it going to improve the greater number of those 8 dynamics? And if it does, it's a good decision. If you look at it and you think, well, it's helping my first dynamic, but it's wiping out my second and my third dynamic, then it's not a good decision. Okay? Good stuff. I'll now read for you the prayer for total freedom. May the author of the universe enable all men to reach an understanding of their spiritual nature. May awareness and understanding of life expand so that all may come to know the author of the universe, and may others also reach this understanding which brings total freedom. At this time, we think of those whose liberty is threatened, of those who have suffered imprisonment for their beliefs, of those who are enslaved or martyred, and for all those who are brutalized, trapped, or attacked. We pray that human rights will be preserved, so that all people may believe and worship freely, so that freedom will once again be seen in our land. Freedom from war and poverty and want, freedom to be, freedom to do, and freedom to have. Freedom to use and understand man's potential, a potential that is God-given and God-like, and freedom to achieve that understanding and awareness that is total freedom. May God let it be so. Now, you know all about the 8 parts of life called the dynamics. I encourage you to look at your life and how you can make it better. Look at the problems you have and use the tools of going for the greatest good to make the right decisions to solve your problems and achieve expansion on your dynamics. If you have questions or would like someone to talk to, you can reach us at 416-792-1889, or you can email us. You can order your copy of the Scientology Handbook and booklets and videos with details by contacting those areas. Join us next Sunday for more ways to improve your life. Okay? Great.